Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to go over the build that I'm most proud of in the 3.14 League, and that is going to be my Cauterizer Cast on Crit Bladefall Blade Blast. And now hopefully I have some gameplay shown before this section, but more than likely there won't be. But I'm probably going to be posting various gameplays, and I've already posted some gameplay of the build. Anyway, without further ado, let's kind of get started, starting with my current character. It is a level 92 assassin. I'm a very smart assassin with 400 intelligence, but this is kind of the mid-range build. So if you have anywhere between 50 exalts to 200 exalts, you want to run assassin. Now, if you have less than that, I greatly recommend Inquisitor. If you have there's a way to make this build in about 7 exalts. I spent about 6.5 to 7 exalts making a version of this build. Could do T16 maps. No problem. It has a little bit of a rough time with bosses because you're not able to run proper concentrated effect links. So that really fucks up your bossing damage. But you know, if you're ignoring that, it's really good. Okay, it's really good. And if you're really high budget, you probably want to go Elementalist. We ran this on Elementalist. This build has touched a lot of people's hands between Spicy Sushi, Fast AF. All those people have played this build, and it really works wonders. Okay, let's get into the build itself. The very important keystone item in this build is this weapon, the Cauterizer. Now, the reason this item is so important is because of the level 5 Gore Shockwave on melee hit. Now, there's another weapon that also works, and that is Namahu's axe, whatever that's called. We tried it with the Namahu axe, and it's significantly less consistent. It's because the Namahu fireball has a little bit of a time it takes to drop down, and it's not very consistent. But Gore Shockwave, incredibly consistent. It doesn't need to have this corruption. This corruption was a pain in the ass to get. Took forever. We corrupted probably 4 quad tabs of these axes, and we only hit like 5 or 6 with inspiration. Okay, and we double corrupted all of them. That took an incredible amount of time. You don't need to do that. You can totally get away with just running a normal ass version for like 5 chaos, and it still works fine. You probably lose around 10% damage or something like that. It's not a big deal, especially if you're not trying to push to, like, you know, be able to AFK Maven with no flasks. In terms of our helm, I'm just going to go through my gear now. My helm's pretty fucking good. We got elevated pen, elevated flat fire, minus res, and just really good mods in general. I got kind of fucked on the suffixes because I hit %int on Hunter. I could, at this point, try to Maven orbit, and if it hit minus fire res, it would be a mirror tier helm. Easily, not even a question. But nah, it's wonderful the way it is, and there's no reason for me to mess it up anymore. As for our rings, we have just life gain on hit rings. It's very important they're life gain on hit by spell, so we're looking for shaper rings. The Assassin's Mark is really important on this ring, so you want life, some resistances, and then Assassin's Mark on one ring. And the other ring, ideally, you get minimum endurance charge from Eiling, but the other one is, you know, you're totally open for a res ring. And like I said, I greatly prefer if you could get, you know, if you go for life gain on hit, it makes you incredibly tanky because you're constantly dropping blade falls and you're constantly detonating blade blasts. So you're very tanky. I'm running an unset ring here, so I can just run like a wave of conviction, but it doesn't particularly matter that it's an unset. Earlier in the league, you won't have that kind of luxury, and later into the league, even, there's just no reason to. Right? This is because we had to do so much testing with the build. I ran an unset. If possible, I recommend both of them being vermilion rings. Okay, onto the amulet. This is probably the best amulet I made this league. It's pretty insane. Triple warlord prefixes. Basically, the key stats you really want on here are damage pen and fizz as extra fire. Everything else here is a luxury. Basically, ideally you want T1 crit of some sort, whether that's global crit chance or global crit multi, just something, a luxury. Okay, whatever you choose, crit chance or crit multi. I chose crit chance because I hit it first, and I was too lazy to fish for crit multi. And then attributes, some resistances. The resist that you're going to be most starved for is probably going to be Chaos Res. Now, if you're running this on a budget build, you completely ditch the Rare Amulet. The Rare Amulet is only here if you have the luxury to do so. This is the final item you upgrade, so upgrade everything else to Rare first before looking at the Amulet. And for the Amulet, you're just going to run a Zoph's Blood. Allocate Magmatic Strikes or Constitution, depending on if you want some more tankiness or some more damage, and it's a good time. Now onto the chest plate. Mine is pretty good. It's got T2 Chaos Res and double elevated suffixes with additional curse prefix and 10% max life. Not much to say about this. If you're running a rare chest, Astral Plate is wonderful and helps you with your resistances. But you don't need to run an Astral Plate. If you're finding yourself really strength starved, you probably want to just run a whatever 6-link you can find. Maybe Assassin's Garb or even a Vol Regalia. Okay, cool. Onto the gloves. Now this is where we're going to cap our accuracy rating. This is how we're going to get our accuracy rating. I think this is wonderful. This way to do it is wonderful. Just high resistances on your gloves, on your suffixes, along with the T1 accuracy rating. And ideally, a temple mod for the Puharte, added fire damage against burning enemies, but there's no real need to do that, right? Good life, and then added damage if you've dealt crit recently is wonderful, but at that point you're just Redeemer slamming and praying for something decent, and that hit something pretty decent, so. As for boots, just the classic double elevate suffix boots. Suffixes can't be changed. Reforge crit for elusive, then Eiling Slam for movement speed. Ideally, you're looking for some sort of attribute, right? Either Eiling for 2, 1 prefix, 1 suffix, and get the attribute on there, or Exalt Slam like I did. As for the belt, you really want cooldown recovery rate. Now, whether you get this through Shaper/Crusader, or if you get it through Eiling, it doesn't really matter. But you want to, for me, when I did the math, keeping at 13 is the ideal move. And then some resistances, good life, Flask Effect is really, really good, if you can get that as well. But you don't need to, right? This build is very min-maxed. Altogether, I think this gear you see on screen, just these items, cutting the effort put into it, was probably like close to a mere and a half of work, close to 2 mirrors of work. Especially some of the gear was really finicky. All right, cool. Now moving on to the passive tree. If you want to be a little tankier, I greatly recommend you look to get the Doriani jewel. It's called Glorious Vanity, and it gives you a ton of extra energy shield. It'll make you a lot tankier. It'll make you feel a lot tankier, especially after you get your Cinder Swallow urn. And when you do that, you do power charge stacking. If you're assassin, you go power charge stacking, and if you're elementalist, it's the same tree basically for all 3 builds. Now, originally, this build was developed for 2 1 passive voices. I think I still have a remnant of that somewhere. Yeah, my voice is there. I still have a couple 1 passive voices left. So this build has a lot of room to min-max, which is kind of nice. And if you run a Zoph's Blood, you drop Avatar of Fire. Over here we have a Transcendent Flesh. You don't need to run this either. You can just take the Divine Wheel, and it kind of makes up for that, as if you're budget. In terms of clusters, dirt cheap clusters. These are like 30, 40C clusters. You can roll them yourself if you want. I just have just some resistances, and this one's just like the double damage crit clusters with move speed or whatever. These ones are pretty, like, a little more bougie, right? They got like stuff on it. And in terms of jewels, I have like perfect jewels, right? So you're not gonna be able to get jewels like this. These are the perfect jewels. Double crit multi-life is. Double crit multi-life is. All of them are like that. You don't need any of that. Just a single crit multi-jewel or double crit multi-jewel will do you wonders. You don't need life. Or you can just do life and 1 crit multi. And it's perfectly fine. Okay, cool. Now moving on to my Watcher's Eye that I have. Everything else, I'll leave the POB in the description so you can look over it. Here's my Watcher's Eye. What can I say about this other than, like, it is the objectively best Watcher's Eye right now that exists in League for this build. I had probably like 5 or 6 of these Watcher's Eyes this league, similar ones, triple angers or like double precisions or whatever the fuck. And this one finally succeeded with damage pen and cannot be cursed, which is crazy. Like, that's some crazy shit. So you don't need to be as lucky. The most important stat on here is damage penetrates 15% fire resistance. And then the second most important stat is actually the Fizz as extra fire. So crit multi is cool, but it doesn't matter too much. And if you can't, like, what matters is you just get damage pen. All right, damage pen, get that on there. And if you, after you get it on there, the other stat, whether that's critical multi or Fizz as extra fire or percent fire damage, doesn't matter. All right. Or you can even go attack speed from the precision side to help you shore up your trigger rate on your cast on crit. All right, cool. Well, the passive tree is pretty simple to understand. It's a basic tree. I'm not going to get into it too much. The important note is we're going acro phase acro, so if you do go Glorious Vanity, I would drop this and maybe look to running Discipline and then ES on hit Watchers for Discipline. So you got life gain on hit and ES on hit for added tankiness. Now, I'm going to kind of go over like the 2 versions of the builds that I don't have actively. The Elementalist version has around 6,000 HP, does about 4 times the damage of this build, and 4 times the damage of what I showed on the Deathless Maven No Flasks AFK gameplay. And it's really, really good, but it's very min-max heavy. So on Elementalist version, if you have voices, if you have 1 passive voice, and it has to be 1 passive voices, it's kind of hard to get away with 3 passive voices because you're relatively point starved on this build. That's, you know, if you're going for the expensive option, that's what Elementalist entails. The Inquisitor version, the very budget version, you have 5-6 exalts. If you're willing to level up your own skill gems, it'll do you a lot of good. So anyways, that's basically it. I don't think I'm missing anything. I'll have all the links as well in the description and in the POB. These are the flasks I'm currently running. You can totally get rid of the life flask if you want, but it's not going to matter too much. The nice thing about this specific build is with the exact same passive tree, maybe with a couple tiny tweaks here and there, you can completely change what cast on crit links you use. So for example, if you want to use like Purifying Flame links, you can totally get away with doing that. So yeah, anyways, thank you guys for tuning into the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this sort of chill commentary content. I hope to publish a few more of it in the coming leagues. This league has been a little more dead to me than usual, mostly because, you know, real life work has been picking up in the league itself. It's a bad time. Launch was kind of a bad time and all that stuff. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and if you really liked it, you can drop a sub if you want. Thank you.